Hello, hello. Just going to make my screen
Hello.
bigger. Can I do that? Can I remember how to? No, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6. I believe we're now on episode 6 of Free Flow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm really proud of us, Julia. Once again, I'm joined with my cousin Julia. And we're really excited for today's episode. Today we're going to be exploring cycle systems. And if you've listened to the other 5 episodes, you'll kind of notice that we've kind of threaded this through already, really, and sort of done a deeper dive into the seasons and cycle syncing within the seasons. But there's so much. This is such a huge topic. You could go into. You could just do a whole thing on nutrition or a whole thing on yoga or all the things. So today we thought we'd do a little deep dive because I have a Cycle Sync 101 course coming out. It's out now. It's launched. I'm doing a slow launch for it, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. So we are going to be talking about that, but also there's going to be just some nuggets for you. If the course appeals to you, if it doesn't appeal to you, if you want to know what cycle sync is, then this is what we're exploring in this one. So Julia, shall we kickstart? Do you know what day of your cycle you're on?
Yes, I got my little book.
Yay! Every time before we hit record, guys, we're always like, oh, we need to just actually remember.
So I got my little fun little succulent book.
Oh, it's yeah. Oh, it's so cute.
It's so fun.
Oh.
I'm on day 8.
Day 8. I'm feeling great.
Well, I'm actually, so I'm in spring, and potentially transitioning to summer quite soon, I would say. I'm probably in a bit of a transition, and I'm definitely feeling the sort of unsettlement of transition. Because I've also just moved house.
Yes, of course.
So it's like that plus the sort of transition days and being more aware of those. But I also remember we said for inner spring, be tender with yourself.
Yes.
So I remember that now when I'm in inner spring and I'm thinking, oh, it's spring, I'm over winter, like all of that is behind me, I should be feeling like all powerful and stuff. And I'm like, no, there's a little tender phase in between the two. So I'm just reminding myself of that and being like, just be tender with yourself. Like I went and sat out in the garden earlier and I just felt so much better, and I was like, this is great, this is what you need to do. Sit in the garden and look at the trees. And you feel much better. So I'm feeling generally okay, but just a little bit unsettled, probably because it's transition phase. That's
and you're going away this week as well? You're going away for a couple of days?
And I'm gonna go on a lovely train to the Netherlands. I'm so grateful we can train there.
That would be so lush. And also what a great time to be going, because you'll kind of be in ovulation, I guess, so that will be quite nice. It's like yay, exploring in the world. That's a nice time to be it's synced very nicely. Cycle syncing, the travel edition.
Yes. Oh my god.
Brilliant.
Oh, you could totally plan. You could totally plan your travel around your cycle to make it optimal. But
I have a big trip coming up, and I'm like, where is that gonna fall if I get this plane ticket on this?
Which day should I book the
kind
of I was invited by someone, so she sort of said these are the dates, and it just happened to be up, which is perfect. So but it's cool. It's really cool to be more aware of where I am, and that's why I'm feeling like that. It's fine. But how about you, Sorcha?
I'm on day 25, so should be on day 1 tomorrow. Yes, normally my cycles are sort of 24 to 26 days. Recently they've been for a couple, I guess most of this year actually, I think they've been 25 days, certainly since spring equinox. So I'm quite intrigued because we have autumn equinox on the 23rd of September, and sometimes that changes just slightly the length of days of my cycle. So I'm kind of intrigued to see if it does it this time. Yeah, so actually, you know, normally I kind of forgot because we had the Pisces full moon last night, and I always forget how like dreamy and like, oh, like a big squish ball this like full moon makes me. Normally full moons I'm like, you know, those when they're doing auctions and they're like, or like they're horse racing, it's like that.
Yeah.
And I, you know, when it hits and it's luteal phase, I'm always like, oh god, batten down the hat. But actually I always forget that this is probably one of my favorite like full moons, and I don't really have Pisces, like heavy Pisces placements in my chart or anything, so I'm always quite intrigued. But I have a lot of Scorpio, a lot of fire, a lot of Capricorn, so I think maybe it just gives it like a nice big like hug. And and I love it. So it's been a very like dreamy kind of, yeah, surprisingly calm kind of couple of days. It was a tricky beginning to the week, just because I had a few things going on, and you know, when you have one of those days where you're like, why is everything happening today?
Yeah.
But otherwise, so day 25 very much got that kind of vibe of I just kind of want to keep house, even though I say that, but I just had like a 2-hour break before our call from work, and I was like, I'll just lie on this bed for a while. But also that's fine, because luteal phase, it's a bit like your garden time, and it is a Sunday, so if one can't have, you know, a little white space, you know, dream time. But I've stuck some like vine leaves on my wall, the fake vine leaves. You know, I want to get out the fairy lights. I've kind of been like been moved in for a year, but I'm like, oh, I should probably decorate it with the stuff that I've got in these boxes. So I'm kind of in that like nesty kind of phase, and and just kind of getting ready. So probably be on day 1 tomorrow. So yes, just tending to myself, and what was our one? Slowing my roll.
Slow your roll.
Yeah, slow your roll. So that's my kind of.
You got the red sheets out?
Got that? Not yet, actually. They're ready. That's what I'm going to do after the call. Yeah, I've been watching some like, what are they called, like, you know, room makeovers. I've been having them on last night. I was like, oh, I just want to watch some room makeovers. Like Pinterest come to life. I was like, this is the stuff. But I've got the red sheets. They're all fresh and washed and ready, so they'll be on. Normally I put them on at the beginning of the week, but I just had a weird, why did I do that? I think I just got home from the trip I was on last time I went to a wedding. This day last cycle I was on my way to a wedding, and the wedding was incredible, but it was the worst day to travel ever, because I was like, luteal phase, hence me saying about the planning your travel times. I was like, probably would try not to travel in luteal phase, because I just found it so stressful. But that was just, you know, train strikes and all stuff in the UK, so it was other things kind of popping up. But anyway, I came back. I then had COVID. That's it. I had COVID. So my red sheet stayed on longer. Normally I'm like the second half of my cycle, then my like my cue to slow down. So so hence they're going on a bit later. I was like, oh god, they're late. And I was like, no, it's fine, it's okay. It's just bedding. Headline, I'm like, no, it's okay. It's a self-imposed thing, and it's okay. It's supposed to be enjoyable. So the red sheets will be not sure. A bath of my hair. Ready.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
For a week, so.
Cool. So today we want to talk about
Cycle Sync 101. Yeah. So I've given Julia a little link for this, so that she's kind of got it as well. And it's my brand spanking new, that's been kind of marinating for since the summer, since the spring. Actually, I wrote it in my inner spring, you know, when you're like in planning mode. And I actually meant to go back and check my diary, because I have a feeling it might have been Pisces new moon when I wrote this, because it was about 6 months ago. So I'll need to double check this out, you know, interest, because it's always good with the full and the new moons to kind of revisit, a bit like we can do with our bleed. You know, when we're coming back into our inner winter, we can be like, oh, what you know, what did I do? What do I want to do? And just take stock a little bit. Like now is like in autumn for me, so kind of taking stock, like what worked this month, what didn't work this month. How can I look after myself more? So I wrote this course. I planned it out back in the springtime, and it was a day 4 or 5 of my cycle, and I was like, this is like my, if you guys have listened to the Inner Spring podcast, I know that's like my day where I tend to feel like I want to plan. I take full advantage of that, having ADHD. I'm like, yes. And then I kind of let it marinate a bit. I was actually going to have it like come out then and there, and I don't know, I just wasn't quite ready. I'm not sure if I was quite ready. I was just coming into this course I'm doing with Ed School called Menstrual Leadership Program, and I kind of had a feeling that like either some bits of the course will change or I will be so different when it comes to actually teaching this container. And I was like, just hold off until you finish this course, like wait until autumn. And I had to be like, is that like a weird fear of like I'm not ready, you know? Or I was like, no, actually I'm okay that I need to wait a bit for it. It needs to like marinate a bit over summer. You know, and now it's kind of out there in the internet ether, and I'm doing a very kind of slow launch for it. I launched it with the Virgo new moon, so about 2 weeks. I mean, we're on the 11th of September. This will go out a bit later, but I launched it kind of then, and yeah, the price will go up a little bit with the Libra new moon, and I just kind of did that because I wanted to have like basically a month. If you're not kind of familiar with the moons, then it's kind of just giving myself like a month to sort of kind of like give it to like my my followers on social media and in my email lists, and it just felt like kind of having that slower launch just felt better for like my emotional regulation, I think, like from an ADHD kind of point of view, and sort of not being like it's here now, it's the thing is. And I thought, well, if it was like that, I would have probably launched it in spring, and just kind of playing with this idea of like letting it like it's okay to like not be like up down, like doing a launch and like kind of having that burnout that I think comes with ADHD a lot, and just, you know, living in the capitalist society that we live in and kind of perpetuating that. It's also, I mean, I have a day job still, so it's also coming up to a busy time in my day job. So I knew that would be happening, and I was like, I don't want to have all of this like, you know, deadlines that I've given myself. A bit like if we take it back to the red sheets, you know, it's a bit like, let's just like, it's okay. It's okay if it's like you feel, you know, that I think with ADHD as well, you can perpetually feel like you're kind of running a bit late. And you know, I was like, I'm just going to give it a bit of extra time and have a play with like the way I want to share it, and just do it kind of with some ease. Like, how would that feel? Is it okay? Does it feel a bit weird because I feel kind of calm about it? Like, you know, when you're used to it being like it's got to be a deadline and you're kind of not used to that like calm, it can feel a bit, you know, weird.
So
it's good to like practice.
First of all, what obviously people who go on the course will get a deep understanding of it, but could you give a summary of what is cycle syncing? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So I think the easiest way to define cycle syncing would be working with the cycle to kind of optimize our whole life, I suppose, really. So even if you don't have a menstrual cycle, or if you don't have a bleed, or for whatever reason, like it's a very, I'm trying to make it, well, I am making it a very inclusive course, using inclusive language as much as I can. And when I say as much as I can, more because I have to remind myself sometimes, you know, like I'll naturally be like, hey guys, and I'm like, no, hey folks, like it's things like that. So I'm really like practicing kind of using more inclusive language, because I think this could really benefit anyone in like a neurodivergent universe. You know, I kind of want to invite them in, and even, you know, if you're not neurodivergent, I think it's incredible. But really it will help you to, I want to say improve. I'm not sure how much I love that word, but I don't want to say the word fix because I don't feel like that's the right word, because we're not broken. But I want to help you to improve and heal and nurture and empower all the areas of your life through the lens of having ADHD and using cycle awareness. So looking at things like, you know, kind of having like that lens for like mental health, physical health, spiritual health. I come from a yoga and meditation background, so I really kind of bring that all in. And just lots of different areas. So maybe also with productivity, right? I'm like kind of a recovering workaholic. So kind of using that, but also creativity, because I think the way our cycle works is incredible with our kind of how our creativity flows. It doesn't surprise me that I planned this in the inner spring, and then like the copy kind of came in a summer, and now I'm kind of launching it in the autumn, and I kind of did some editing, and I'm really excited for that. And there'll kind of be a pause afterwards for it when it's in the winter, and I think that's kind of just happened to have synced up really well with the seasons as well. But yeah, so just using the kind of exploring, I don't really want to say using either, but working with the cycle. And you can use the moon cycles as well if you don't have a bleed, or if you're on the pill, something like that. Not everyone has that, but they might want to work with this energy, and letting it infiltrate your life for the better.
I guess so. I've heard the term biohacking, and I don't really like it, because hacking,
it's a bit masculine, isn't it? And I don't like
hacking has this very aggressive sort of feel to it,
almost like military masculine
something.
Yeah.
And hacking is also like how people break into computer systems and things. So it has this sort of very aggressive, violent connotation. So I don't really like the word hacking, but I think that's the kind of idea, isn't it? It's like and again, I don't like the idea of you're breaking into your system to like use it for your own means. That's not what it's about. But it's like you understand the inner workings of something, in this case your cycle, and you use it in a way that is like it brings all the best things to the fore in each stage. Right. But I don't want to use the word biohacking, so I think cycle syncing is nice. It has this like kind of softer feel,
and kind of that working with it, you're kind of you're kind of in it whether you realize it or not. A bit like with the ADHD rounds, we can have like our workarounds for ADHD, and you can have your like ADHD hacks, which is great, but like let's see how we can have these like little workarounds and how that links with the cycle, because of the hormones that fluctuate throughout the cycle. What will be beneficial one day may not be beneficial the next day, and that's also completely fine.
I agree. And I just think when you were saying about how you planned in your inner spring, and then you wrote, so you did that sort of the writing, that active thing in a summer, and then you released it in autumn, and you're just kind of letting it be and letting it sort of roll out slowly. Exactly, that's what you want to do. And then you're kind of like, you're going into your winter, and it's like that's when you kind of receive things, right? You're like sort of downloads, as you say. So then you're going to receive your sort of applicants and things like that's really nice. It just made me think like I'm in my spring now, and I'm like and I do want to plan stuff, and I'm like okay, that's because I'm in spring, and like my brain is working in such a way that I'm open to that, and I actually tried to do a lot of planning in my winter, this winter just gone, in the winter, sorry. And just to clarify, and it was really hard work, and now I realize and I didn't even know why, like, so I'm also I'm still learning, but you just reminded me of that. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool, now is the time where it will feel easier.
And it's that going with the flow, and going with that ease, rather than does it always have to feel difficult. And when I kind of sort of bled on it, when I was thinking about how I wanted to launch this, I was like, well, it feels more easeful to do it slowly, rather than like, I've got a week to do all of this copy and I'm doing it around my day job. Like, no thank you, like, no. So it's kind of been like inviting that ease in, and that's okay. It's safe to do that. And I think working with my cycle on an even deeper level this year has allowed me to do that, and to and also just like doing things like a lot of mindset work around things. And I've noticed that my inner critic, which will flare up in luteal phase, has really kind of been way more subdued really the last few months. But even more like this week, I think I had one day, but everything was just like, I didn't have a good sleep. I just had a terrible day. It was not good, where everything was just going, but and even then I was like, no, it's okay. Like, you just need to have an early night tonight and do some yoga and like look after yourself. And that's, would have been so difficult even a year ago to be like, oh no, I actually just need to look after myself, and that's okay, rather than be like, no, keep going, I'm gonna punish you all week, have a late night and do the things. I was like, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I kind of working with that.
Yeah.
And I think as well, I kind of, and even doing things like writing lists of like the people that I want this to attract, the kind of people that I want to be in this space, that I want to nurture, because I want it to like really be of benefit to people that come into it. I don't just want to be like, here's, come and do this thing. I want it to be like people that are really gonna just be receptive to it as well, because it's it is kind of learning to receive that as well, and receive that knowledge. And we can do all the courses in the world, but if we're not ready to receive it and practice it, we won't. And there's also so many levels. I think people can, it'll be a lifetime access course, but I think people will, a bit like in a yoga class, you can go to this, you could do the same yoga class every day, maybe for like a month, and I think each day you kind of get something different from it, because you might pick up on a different keyword that day, or you might like really find the physical practice challenging one day and the breath practice really welcoming, or whatever. So I think again, it's just kind of having it as an easeful experience. And I think one of the things, Julie, I was saying to you just kind of before we started recording, was that I have kept this as quite a flexible, I mean, it's got a structure to it, and I'm really excited to deliver on that. But also, as I was kind of saying to you, is that I kind of have this plan of like how I want it to go, but I also think like, I'm not so like gripping onto that as I have in the past of, other things. I'm quite excited to play with the, I don't know if I want to say the feminine energy, but I think play with that kind of play within the structure. So if I find that we start this container, and maybe there's a lot happening even one week. I mean, I've planned it to be a 6-week course, but I've also kind of, mentally kind of blocked it out as a potentially 8 weeks if people want like a little week of integration time, if they need that, or if there's a lot of questions that come up about a specific season, which I think often we think of as luteal phase, but actually I think people also do struggle with the inner summer, because we kind of feel like we should be doing all of the things, and we're not, but we're not able to. So it might be, in my head, I'm like, well, I struggle with this one, so this is might be where other people do. But really, as I've done this journey, as I've done this practice over the years, I have struggled with every phase of the cycle. And I've also found strength within every phase of that cycle. So, it's kind of, and I like to work with that element of good surprise. I think that works for my brain, having ADHD, but I think also, being a reflector in human design, there's kind of, when we sort of have we're on the right track and we have that feeling of surprise, that's always a good thing. And the disappointment is kind of the negative of that. So I feel like, having those little surprises and not having everything, well, it is planned out, but being happy to just like throw caution to the wind and bring it in a different way, or pivot. So I'm quite excited to have, there is an element of flexibility in it. And again, I think whether you are neurodivergent or not, I think that will, there's a lot that you can get from it. But in my